All right, coming off the bye week, having a chance to get a little rest and get rejuvenated. Good seeing the guys in the building here this morning. You could tell there was good energy. Everybody had a chance to, get some rest, heal up in a few cases that we needed to heal up, and get ready for a great week of preparation for Detroit. Obviously, a good football team. So can't wait to get going. Can't wait to get back to work and on the practice field.
All right, we'll go Ken Sterling.
Hey, Coach. How big an advantage is it for a team coming off a bye week playing against a team that had to play the previous Sunday?
I think there's been a lot of studies done on that over the years that can suggest a variety of things. Personally, there's the one advantage is it's a chance to get healthy. So to the degree that you can get players healthy and get more guys playing, I think that's the biggest advantage. As far as the extra preparation time, with the way bye weeks go, where you're not really going out and practicing so much, it's more about getting healthy and getting rested.
Joel Erickson.
Frank, with Marcus Johnson's knack for explosive plays, is it just the speed, or what is it about him that gives him that knack?
Yeah, Joel, I think there's two things. First is what you mentioned is it's the speed, and Marcus is explosive. But the second thing is, just the ability to make the 50-50 catch. A couple of the ones he's had, he's had good leverage and run by guys, but a couple of those, most of the big plays that he's made have required him going up, high pointing the ball or tracking the ball. So being able to high point and track the football those are kind of two separate skills, along with the speed that he's doing very well right now.
Mike Chappell.
Frank, with the self-scouting you guys did last week, I'm sure there was a lot of critical things going on. The running game's not where you want it to be, obviously. When you look at it, is it situations? Is it commitment? Is it execution? Is it what's going on?
Last week we looked at everything, but we probably put an emphasis on our zone run game just because that's what we run the most. And actually, in a lot of ways, we were encouraged as far as at the point of attack. At the point of attack, how we, anytime you're talking about zone blocking scheme, it's about combination blocks. It's about footwork and technique and combination blocks. And so as far as our execution and how the offensive line is performing at those combination blocks, we felt like it was pretty good. Some of it, as you just alluded to, Chap, was situational. Some of it was heavy box, unaccounted, forced player, heavy crack replace, things along that nature. And there's always different ways that we, as an offense, try to address those things. So, there's some things we definitely need to work on. But I felt like we were encouraged. We just got to keep calling it. We got to keep getting in the right situations to call it, and just keep trusting our guys to do what we know they can do.
Just quick follow-up. This is still your identity.
No question. No question. This is our identity. We are committed to the run. Now, we have not been committed to the run as much as we would have liked to. I still think some of that is situational. A decent portion of that is situational, but that's who we want to be. We want to run the football.
Thanks, Frank.
Kevin Bowen.
Frank, obviously not without you're not going to say anything self-scout too deep, but I guess general-wise, outside of run game, what else maybe stood out to you, good or bad, from the first 6 weeks?
No, yeah, you're right, Kev. I mean, obviously not going to get into it too deep, but we looked at, in addition to like in the run game stuff of looking at the zone stuff, which you're looking at inside zone, outside zone. In the pass game, we were really looking at situational stuff, third down, red zone. We made a little bit of progress, obviously, in our last game, but okay, how do we build upon that? So we kind of dove in heavy there. And then we also, the other thing you look at self-scout is tendency things. What are we doing by personnel group? What are we doing by formation? That is a little bit of a tendency. We look at that every week. You guys know we talk about this all the time. In the old days, you'd wait to the bye week to do all the heavy lifting as far as self-scout. With the technology today, teams do heavy, they do that. We do heavy lifting on self-scout every week. We literally do. So maybe you do a little bit more, but, and we did look at all those things as far as personnel groupings, formations, and all that stuff.
And then one quick follow-up. Will Kamoko practice this week?
He's making progress. Well, I think he's making good progress. Well, I'll give you guys an update on Wednesday, and even before we get out there, to kind of give an early heads up who will be out there. We just want to make sure we continue to make the progress that we do the next couple of days.
Zach Kiefer.
Frank, on the same topic, I wanted to ask you about Kamoko. And whenever he does come back, I feel like it's a really unique skill set for that position. And this got overshadowed last year in the Chiefs game because you guys won and you ran the ball so well. You had a huge game. What are you getting back when you get him back? And what can he add to the defense that is a really good addition mid-season to have a pass rusher come back like that?
I think Kamoko's unique gift is speed and bend off the edge. And when I say speed, there's really I should say there's a third element to that. It's get off. All the really good pass rushers have a natural knack at getting off on the ball. And I think Kamoko has that. And then, just his speed up the field, number two. But then the third part is the bend. For a guy his size, we all know this, but just everybody at this level bends well. But then there's guys who have a little bit extra bend for their size and strength. And Kamoko is one of those guys. For example, another guy like that, I'm not putting Kamoko in the same category as a Myles Garrett at this point. But that's what Myles Garrett does so well. Myles Garrett has that speed and bend. And when you have that as a pass rusher, the dynamic is, hey, the tackle, he's pass setting on you, you're already off the ball. But with your great speed, you're already putting the tackle in a difficult position. But then that ability to bend is really what gets you past the tackle's hips, because it's all about, as a pass rusher, as a speed pass rusher, it's about getting your hips past the tackle's hips and getting up and having the speed and bend to be able to do that. And we think Kamoko has those traits. So, and he's shown that, and we're anxious to get him back out there when we can and if we can.
Frank, just to clarify, does he need to practice for 2 weeks before you activate him, or is he good right now to be activated whenever you want?
No, the plan will be regardless of how that plays out, the plan will be, hey, we got to practice this guy a couple weeks before we do anything. I mean, he's going to have to prove he can do it out in the practice field first before we think about, putting him back out in the game.
Okay, we'll go two more. George Bremer.
Coach, on the bye week, is it tough from a coaching standpoint to not want to add too much? You get that extra week of preparation. You have to hold yourself back a little bit and remind yourself that not to do too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for this coming up game plan, because we have more time on Detroit, and we have more time on Detroit. So, Nick and I were talking about that this morning, and how you naturally during the week are building up ideas and things that you want to do. And so, tonight we'll make sure that we're pared down to where we normally are for things. So that's definitely something you have to guard against.
All right, last one, Jim Aiello.
I got two. It was kind of in regards to follow up on that, but just because you had a little extra time, do you start preparing at all for like that Baltimore Green Bay, just because it's so squeezed together in within the calendar coming up in a week or so here, a couple weeks, I mean?
Yeah, there was a little bit of work done on games other than Detroit last week, some preliminary work, the Titans game, which is a Thursday night game, so that's a tight week. So the coordinators all had a good plan. You got to balance that off. You can't go too far out and do too much, but there's a few certain things that you can just take a little bit of the edge off for that week. And okay, we can do X, Y, Z this week while we have the time, and it makes sense. It's pretty common practice by everybody, but we certainly did our due diligence in those areas.
The other question I had for you was that Kenny just kind of talked about you know, he was already a great slot blitzer. We've seen that from Kenny Moore, but he said that he thinks he got better this year just by talking to Phillip Rivers, because Phillip Rivers is helping him identify some tendencies or things that he does. I was wondering if you noticed that, and then have you noticed Phillip having an impact on the starting defense, you know, in those ways?
Yeah, no, and I think Philip has had some good conversations with Flus, you know, to help. Those are great little tips. The player to player learning and the player to player coaching. I mean, my experience as a player and as a coach, it's hard to put a number on that. I mean, that stuff is gold. It's really important. You get a guy like Philip who's been around and is so good at seeing little things that kind of tip him as a quarterback. And, you know, I just give Kenny and the other guys credit, you know, anybody he's talking to, you know, and Philip, here's the other good thing about him. He's not going to overdo it. He's not going to throw out 15 things. He's going to throw out the one or two things that you can bank on. Hey, this is a definite, because then there's other things that are in the category of, you know, not quite crystal clear. But so Philip would do a great job of that.